Sherdog.com here with UFC 1 participant Ken Shamrock. Here you are, you drop back for a heel hook, you sink the submission, Pat Smith submits with both hands, and then gets up afterwards and decides maybe the fight's not over. Was there any conversation between you two or the referee, or, explain that situation at the end, what happened?
Well, the referee couldn't speak English, so he was from Brazil, so we had no clue about what he was saying. With Pat, and the reason why I think that was so hard for him was, one, most people didn't know me, and two, he got tapped out by this funny looking thing, right? I mean, he didn't know what it was, but it didn't look like didn't look aggressive, And so when he tapped out, just before I tapped him out, we get this ring entrance, right? And he stands up there and he basically says, I have a high pain tolerance. Pain doesn't bother me, right? That's one of my strengths, is pain don't bother me. And next, 2 minutes later, he's screaming, tapping out. And so it was hard for him, and knowing him too, I mean, he has a lot of pride. And so, I know it because I did it with Royce. It was almost like no, it didn't, just do it. No, it didn't happen. Let's start over. You just kind of get that thing because you just know you could do better. You screwed up. And I know that's what was going through his head. The minute I caught him and got him, he couldn't get out of it, and I cracked his ankle. And when he got up, it was like, do over.
Let's go to the Royce fight. What was the feeling right after that happened?
Very, very confused. I mean, and it's funny too, because it wasn't confused that I got beat. I was confused on how that wasn't a weapon, or why did they take my shoes away and say mine was a weapon and his wasn't. I didn't understand that. I mean, and it's weird too, because it was a split set. It was seconds, but literally that's what was going through my mind. Was I remember sitting there like this, thinking, I just got choked with a rope, which was his gi, and because I'm strong, I could pull most people off, and I couldn't do anything with that gi, and it was a huge equalizer for him. And then the referee, he couldn't understand him, and then Royce comes up to me and goes, you top, like he didn't want to go again, right? I mean, he was literally saying, you top, like we're not going again. And I said, yeah, I tapped. And I'm thinking, I didn't say anything, but I just kept thinking in my head, that was a rope.
What do you think would have happened to the UFC if you would have beat Royce Gracie?
I would have ended up facing Rickson.
Well, a lot of people think Rickson was supposed to be the original UFC person, and then they switched it up and put Royce in. Did you know who Rickson was at the time?
No, I didn't know who the Gracies were.
You didn't know who any of the Gracies were?
And I didn't even know what they did until I pulled out a tape. And then, of course, I didn't understand. I mean, even though I grappled and all that, I looked at it with the gi and all that, and I was like, there's no way this guy's going to beat me. There's no way. Okay, he's 170 pounds, 175 pounds. He ain't beating me.
Now, you fought 3 days before that, you said. You flew straight to Denver. Not only, I've made that flight, and that's a killer.
Yeah.
Not only that, now you're dealing with the altitude. Were there any effects on your, how was your body feeling?
Yeah, I was tired. I really was. I was physically tired. Luckily for me, I defended my title pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. But, it's the preparation for it, it's the before of it, the thought and the process, and, making sure your diet's right, and the plane flight, and then the fight's over. You always have that endorphin, the letdown. When it's over, there's just relief and the letdown that your body goes through. And I had to get myself back up, getting ready to fight for this thing, even though in my mind, and I really wasn't getting myself back up for it. In my mind, I was thinking it ain't gonna happen. So it was almost like after the fight was over, I let myself down. I let me come down. I was like relaxing, because I really thought when I got here that we were gonna get pulled together and see how it works. I really did, and I just didn't think you could pull something like that off here in the United States.
Did you have any interaction later that night or during with the fans? How did they take it after the event? Did you talk to any of them or anything?
We had this after party thing where they put Royce on this pedestal, they put him up in the front, new sheriff in town, his belt, just really played it up. And I remembered it was the fans were supposed to show up. There was nobody there. Nobody came, other than the fighters had to come to get paid. You know, I mean, that's how they made us come, was that they handed out the checks at the after-fight party. So then the families came and the entourage came. So basically it was just the guys that were involved in the show. No reporters were even there. I mean, not that I noticed. I mean, I didn't notice anything. And I remember standing there while all this was going on and watching Royce with that belt and that trophy and the check, and thinking to myself, it'll never happen again. It will never happen again.
This after party, was all the fighting done? Did you notice any people still feeling a little edgy?
They were all humbled, man. I'm telling you, this was something they never experienced before. So when these guys came in, most of the time you get boxing thing like that, everybody's talking trash, and because anybody can throw a punch, you know, and they can get theirs off, or they got a group of people and they can all go. But I think most of these people that showed up, they were all part of this entourage, most of them. But most people showed up there and they were all just trying to think of what just happened. I mean, it really hadn't set in, even though everybody kind of knew. But the effectiveness of what Royce did in that ring, whether it's set up for him or not, the effectiveness that he had to be able to go through them guys like that, methodically in place, do that stuff. And then what I did to Patrick Smith, which, you know, most people would think that if they didn't know Patrick Smith, that it was a set-up fight. Like it was fake.
Especially
right?
when he's 250-0, right?
Yeah, well, not even that. It's just like you hook a guy's leg. How do you understand that when you've never seen it? You're like, what happened? That's why people were throwing drinks at me. I was leaving the ring and I was getting cups of Coke thrown at me and popcorn and bottles. And I mean, everything was being thrown at me after I beat him. He was from Denver. And they were throwing everything at me, and they didn't believe they didn't believe I beat him. They just thought something weird happened, and that just didn't happen. And I was like, man, these people have no idea what I just did. And then tried to explain people into this after-fight party. It was like, what was that? And it was a heel hook. What? Does that work? It just did.
Yeah. After the Royce fight, you go backstage. How quick did you come around and say, I'm in next time?
When I was being interviewed, actually coming out of the ring, when they asked me if I was the second best there, and I said, no, I'm the third. And I knew right then and there after that if I could get back in, that I would come back. Because I knew I made a mistake. I knew I didn't take Royce serious. I didn't think about the gi. I didn't think about how much it equalized the strength. All I thought about was I saw a guy there who was skinny standing there, and that there's no way this guy can beat me. There's just no way. It's physically impossible for him to beat me. And yet he beat me. I remember going back to the locker room and my dad hugged me and he said, it's okay. And he was like, it's not okay. It's like, I made a huge mistake here. You know, I knew I did. And by underestimating all of them. And I said, it'll never happen again. I'll never make that mistake again. I said a lot of things like that, never happen again. And that night really did change me. It did. Because I was on this path of an ego that nobody could touch me. Because everybody I ever came across, whether it was an Olympic gold medalist, or whether it was a boxer, or a Muay Thai champion, with like Maurice Smith, or Don Nakanielsen, these guys were widely known as being some of the most badass guys in Japan. And I killed them easily. And so, I mean, in Japan and here in the U.S., I felt like I was like it. No one could touch me. Everybody I ever came across, when I wanted to roll, I nailed them.
So this was a classic bully meets his match.
Oh, absolutely. It was like smack in the face. Wake up, kid. It isn't just you on this planet.